first place. But it's clear that Paul Manafort is in pardon territory in this president's mind. The only question is how Congress will view that if it actually happens. It would have to be a bridge too far. Giving a pardon to someone who can testify against you and your family, even though technically lawful under the Constitution, is so awful that Congress would have to take action.
We're going to get more of that reaction from Capitol Hill in a second, Joyce. But, Dan, let me ask you about something else the president is now talking about. He's referencing former President Obama's FEC fine, right? This campaign violation slapped down by the FEC in 2013. It was $375,000. So the largest penalty, right, in FEC history over a series of some different notices for more than 1,000 different contributions, as well as different incorrect contribution dates. Here's the thing, though. There were never criminal charges there. So can you explain the difference between what the president's trying to compare this to and what actually went down?
Yeah, this is another example of the president's whataboutism when he's directed with, wrongdoing that he's done or allegedly done. He wants to redirect it to somebody else, usually Obama or Hillary Clinton. Under the criminal law, the critical difference between a civil charge or a civil violation and a criminal charge is generally what we call mens rea or intent. You have to know what the law is in this particular case and intend to break the law. And what the allegations are against Michael Cohen that he pled guilty to is that he, at least, and he then implicated the president, but at least Michael Cohen knew that they were trying to pay these women who Trump allegedly had affairs with in order to conceal that information from the public in connection with the election. And what I think a critical difference is the timing of this and how closely related it is to the election and to the concealment of bad information. That differentiates it a little bit from the Obama case. But if I could just go back to those tweets for 1 second, Howard.
Yeah, please.
I prosecuted organized crime cases in the Southern District of New York, and I supervised that unit. The way that Donald Trump is talking, and I can't help but think about this, is the way mob bosses talk. When you are loyal, you're a stand-up guy, and you take the rap in the mob world, then you get benefits. And if you break and you cooperate and you're a rat, which is another term that he used. And it is a little jarring to see out in the open the President of the United States using this language and saying that someone who was just convicted of serious federal felonies is a good person, a good guy, a stand-up guy, and someone who has pled guilty and has implicated the president all of a sudden now is a terrible lawyer and terrible person. It's a little jarring, and I think we should not take it very lightly.
Joyce, I want to get your thoughts on that. I mean, Dan's making this analogy comparing the president in ways to a mob boss, which is fairly startling, as well as on what's next for both Cohen and Manafort, right? You have the possibility maybe that Cohen will say more, that he will talk more. You have this investigation into Cohen's allegation against the president. Paul Manafort, by the way, goes back to trial in Washington. Does he strike a deal and cooperate? Where does this thing go?
You know, I think Dan is frighteningly right here. In Alabama, we don't have the same kind of mafia cases that Dan prosecuted in New York, but we have something called the Dixie Mafia, which in its own way is extremely venal. And the president's comments are so reminiscent, I think, to all prosecutors of these criminal organizations that we've engaged with over the years. That, to so many of us, is very distressing, and one hopes that the country will begin to see that, too. As far as Manafort and Cohen, after Tuesday, after yesterday, the risk that both of them, either or both of them, will decide that the time is right to cooperate with the government has to be at the front of the president's mind. Paul Manafort now looks at a significant amount of time in prison. He faces an additional trial. It's a now or never moment for him if he intends to cooperate with the government. And similarly for Cohen, whose lawyer Lanny Davis is involved in this very interesting public call to the special counsel's office over their cooperation, seems to have information he would like to provide as well. So this will hit increasingly home to the president as we continue forward.
Dan Goldman, Joyce Vance, up early, up late for us. Thank you both for being on. Here's another piece of this story, by the way, that is moving forward right now this morning, the piece that is going down on the Hill. Our teams have just talked with multiple senators, including some supporters of Donald Trump. And while some may be waking up today hoping, wishing, praying yesterday never happened, the response publicly has been kind of tepid so far. You've got House Speaker Paul Ryan, who did say something short in 2 sentences, saying he's aware of that guilty plea but needs more info. As for his Senate counterpart, Mitch McConnell, nada, at least so far. The number 2 Republican in the Senate, John Cornyn, does tell us people who do bad things need to be held accountable. Was quick to add these convictions and pleas have nothing to do with Russia. NBC's Casey Hunt, I think, has her sneakers on today because I know she's been chasing some lawmakers around the halls of the Capitol. Casey, what have you heard from people who have historically supported Donald Trump? What's going on this morning?
Hallie, it's clear that this story does have something of a different tenor than some of the other conversations that we've had. And let me tell you, a lot of these members of Congress are really sick of all of us running after them in the hallways, asking about the latest Trump tweet.
But this is different, right?
This is something that is altogether different. Yes, exactly. And I spoke just briefly to Senator Toomey of Pennsylvania, who said this is very serious. This is not, something to be taken lightly. He said he wants to see the judicial process play out. And you've heard echoes of that from other Republicans who have been willing to support President Trump in other areas. Take a listen to what Senator Orrin Hatch said just a few minutes ago.
These are serious charges, and they can't be ignored.
Do you think it's high crimes and misdemeanors?
I wouldn't go that far just yet. So.
Do you think this opens up the president to being indicted while sitting in office?
No, I don't, because I don't think he can be indicted while sitting in office. But we'll just have to see where this all works out.
If anything, you heard a little bit of resignation in Orrin Hatch's voice there. This is a drama that Republicans are tired of having play out. Now, I will say on the flip side, Hallie, Democrats are obviously talking about how serious this is, but they are being very careful to avoid the I word, impeachment. I asked Elizabeth Warren about that earlier on Morning Joe. Take a look.
What I think we should be doing in Congress is we should be passing laws to make sure that Donald Trump cannot fire the special prosecutor. That's where the real threat is to Trump, and it's powerfully important that we protect that special prosecutor.
And that, of course, is a big question that Republicans could answer. Mitch McConnell could put such legislation on the floor. There are, of course, constitutional debates about exactly how it might work, but they could certainly send a signal. So far, they haven't done that. Hallie.
Casey Hunt, there on the Hill. Come back if you get more. Casey, thank you. On set here with me in the studio, Bureau Chief for Vice News Tonight, Shauna Thomas, national political reporter for Bloomberg News, Sahil Kapoor, both friends of the show. So, Shauna, let me start with you. Reaction to what you have heard over the last 6 minutes, all this new stuff coming in here.
Or reaction to for the last 24 hours.
Oh, I mean, that's a whole other
issue. I think the interesting thing, especially about what Casey was talking about and the I word and impeachment, is there is a fear in the Democratic Party that if you push this too hard, you will actually rile up President Trump's base in such a way that could affect the midterm election. And I think it's interesting. Alexandra Jaffe, one of our correspondents, was in West Virginia, as many of your people were too, and talking to people. One, she talked to people there who hadn't heard anything about what was going on as everything was falling apart yesterday for President Trump. And two, when she did explain what was going on, they were like, well, that just makes us madder at Washington, D.C. and more likely to show up and vote. And so there is an interesting sort of counter to be careful about how much you push impeachment when you can't actually do it as Democrats in the House of Representatives. Then you don't want to necessarily get more people, more Republicans coming out to vote when Democrats are super energized right now.
To this point, Shauna, and Sahil, I want to get your take on this, because this is a newsworthy moment in time, obviously, right? This is hugely important. We have been covering it a lot. We know reporters had a conversation with some folks familiar with the president's travel schedule for the next 6 weeks, right, as he goes out ahead of the midterms. He's heading to 7 states, at least, right? Those are just some of the states, but we know at least 7. We looked at the front pages of the biggest newspapers in those 7 states. 5 of them did not have Cohen or Manafort on the front page, right? Yeah. They all did mention that the president's coming to campaign.
Yeah.
And they're very heavy on, which states are electing senators. And the Democrats' path to the Senate majority runs through basically the rural Republican-leaning voter who overwhelmingly supported Trump in states like North Dakota and Tennessee. So he may still have a role to play there. If those voters don't end up biting on this, we live in a bit of a post-truth world here, where the response from Republicans in Congress is not going to depend on the facts of the situation. It's going to depend on how their voters respond.
But the old argument, right? This is a rule of law president, and this is happening. These things that just happened in a court of law. This was not sort of in the political theater realm of things. This happened with law and order.
It's different. It's no longer theoretical. There's actual evidence of a crime here that the president is implicated in. It feels like a pivot point now going forward.
But the problem, Sahil, is that we've heard that before, right? Didn't we hear that after the Access Hollywood tape and after different moments that this was the point, this was the pivot point? It never was.
I mean, that's exactly what I was thinking last night when I got home and had my glass of wine that I tweeted about after a long day of work, and I had the question of, how, does this matter? And legally this matters. For Paul Manafort, this matters. For Michael Cohen. For the country, I think it matters. But politically, when we're talking about an election, if Trump's supporters believe that he is being unfairly targeted, that it is a witch hunt, if you have, last night, a lot of what was on Fox News was about Molly Tibbetts.
Sure.
Which
also an important story.
Which is an important story and also incredibly sad, but also is part of the narrative of undocumented immigrants doing bad things in this country, then maybe it doesn't matter to Trump supporters.
Let's leave it here with the idea that practically every rally that I went to during the campaign, people chanted, lock her up, lock her up. Since Election Day, 5 people close to the president's campaign or to him himself have been convicted of breaking the law. We're going to have much more to come on all of this coming up when we take a look at the possibility of a presidential pardon and what Michael Cohen's lawyer is saying about that. We will ask legal scholar Alan Dershowitz whether that would really be a smart move for the president. Spoiler, Alan, that question's coming your way. Plus, former White House insider Omarosa Manigault says everyone knew about the hush money paid to Stormy Daniels and Karen McDougal. Who is everyone? Omarosa's here live.
Plaque psoriasis can be relentless. Tremfya is for adults with moderate to severe plaque psoriasis. I'm ready. With Tremfya, you can get clearer and stay clearer. In fact, most patients who saw 90% clearer skin at 28 weeks stayed clearer through 48 weeks. Tremfya works better than Humira at providing clearer skin, and more patients were symptom-free with Tremfya.
Tremfya may lower your ability to fight infections and may increase your risk of infections. Before treatment, your doctor should check you for infections and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or have symptoms such as fever, sweats, chills, muscle aches, or cough. Before starting Tremfya, tell your doctor if you plan to or have recently received a vaccine.
Ask your doctor about Tremfya. Tremfya, because you deserve to stay clearer. Janssen wants to help you explore cost support options.
If theft were this frequent, you'd definitely do something about it. Well, it is. An identity is stolen every 2 seconds. And you can do something about it with Experian. See if your social security number, phone, and email are at risk with a free dark web triple scan at Experian.com/scan. Experian. Identity protection has a new identity.
Hey, Todd. Hey, Will. So I think I got to get my roof repaired. Do you know anybody?
Yeah, actually I might.
Ah, great. Get me some additional quotes. Research the average price for the job in this area and book the job for 2 weeks from now. On Wednesday. No, wait. Tuesday. Yeah, Tuesday's better.
You can't expect your neighbors to do everything Home Advisor can. So to find and instantly book a top-rated home pro for free, just ask Home Advisor.
Grubhub is a delivery app that lets you order from all your favorite local restaurants. And yeah, it is that easy. Grubhub, restaurants you love, delivered.
They say the future belongs to those who make it. And that's why some of us just can't stop thinking about tomorrow. We've got our eyes on the horizon, our feet on the ground, and our head in, well, that thing. Nobody can see the future. I mean, who saw that coming? But Spectrum can help make it, shape it, and once in a while, shake things up. After all, tomorrow depends on what we do today. That's why Spectrum has built an expansive fiber-powered network to bring the future a little closer. One step or boogie at a time. So bring on the next big thing. And the next big thing after that. Spectrum is here to power it. Spectrum. Think forward.
Believes that every student should have the tools they need to pursue their dreams. That's why during August for Subaru Loves Learning,
mind if I sign one?
Absolutely. They'll be purchasing, donating, and delivering science books to local schools. Visit a participating Subaru retailer to write a message.
Here you go.
And help inspire